Have you ever wondered how to figure yourself out? How to be true to yourself? How to stop pleasing? How to stop listening to everybody else? How to stop self-sabotaging yourself? How to get yourself out of this downward spiral of the anxiety and just looking at the external world for all the answers to your life problems? You're in the perfect place. Yay! Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Nina Zapala, a place to talk about spiritual personality typing. It's a roadmap to your true self. Let's get into that. So what do I mean by all that? What do I mean about spiritual personality typing? Well, first of all, if you're here, I want you to understand this up front because I want this to be very pertinent for you. I believe that you have an inner guide that is tethered to divine intelligence. You know, Abraham Hicks talks about this as being your receiver. It's receiving information from all that is, from the beingness that creates worlds. So we have that. We have that tool. We can work with the beingness that creates world. When you just think about that, you're like, whoa, why in the world do I think I'm unworthy if I've got that connection? What would make me think that? Well, the world makes us think that. That physical aspect of ourselves. We're taught that. We're taught to do school, go to college, get married, white picket fence, whatever it is, right? All these things that just like on and it's never enough, is it? It's never enough. And it doesn't teach you that you're enough either. It doesn't teach you that you're worthy. Because even as you go through life, like, oh, retire, then you'll have it all, right? Then you can live your life. Well, I don't want to live my life at the end of my life. I want to live my life throughout my whole life. That's a nonsense teaching. If you start looking at what we're taught, you're like, yeah, why didn't I see this earlier, right? Because it's so ridiculous. It's just ridiculous thinking. And what I like to call stinking thinking. Why do you have to wait to the end of your life to have a joyful life, to have it all? That's bullshit, right? But that's what we're taught a lot of times. I know that's changing a lot now. But there's still this paradigm. It's like climb the corporate ladder or you have to hustle. And especially if you're a woman, work harder. You have to work harder. That's all bullshit. I don't need to work harder. What I need to master is the idea of focusing on that inner God that resides within me and become the receiver of all these beautiful gifts that were meant to me. That's why I'm here. Divine intelligence, God, Allah, whatever you want to call it, didn't create you for you to be depressed, not loving yourself, not sharing your gifts with the world, being on a ton of medications to just try to work through your day. That's not why you're here. None of that's the reason why you're here. But if you look in the external world, it's like, oh, that's okay. If you're not feeling good, go get a pill. And I understand if you need medication, yes, of course. But I don't want you to stay there if you don't have to. Trust me. I went through a 7-year life tsunami. My whole life was taken away from me. And I'm not saying taken from me, but it just crumbled. Like a bad game of Jenga. It's like, oh, there goes Nina's marriage. Whoop. Oh, there goes her career. There goes the job. There goes the house. All of the Jenga's blocks came tumbling down. And I couldn't stop it. And why this happened to me, and this is why I don't want it to happen to you. This is part of the reason I'm making these videos. Part of the reason why I teach what I teach is that if you start becoming aware of that inner guide, right? And you're receiving those messages, you're working on what your personality does, a physical aspect of it. The inner guide, your receiver, then gets, as Abraham Hicks says again, it gets broadcast through your personality type. So if you don't know your personality type, right? And you're showing up based on somebody else's expectations, opinions, some family lineage that you're like, I don't even want to do this. This your receiver can't work because it's not aligned. You're not aligned with what you really want. And in life, everything we do is to feel better. Think about it. Why do you do the stuff why do you want the new house? To feel better. Why do you want the new shoes? To feel better. Why do you want the new clothes? To feel better. Why do you want a relationship? To feel better. So, I mean, this stuff, it doesn't have to be as complicated as we make it. I'm not saying it's not hard to commit to it and start to get on the path. Once you get on the path, trust me, it gets easier. But if you're like me, you're going to have to go through a lot of shit. I went through a lot of shit. And I would tell my friends, what are you doing? I'm like, sitting in my shit. Like, it's a bad day, I'm sitting in my shit. Because I did this for years, you know? And it was going through from one thing, and then once you start unearthing one thing, it leads to another thing, leads to another thing. But then you start getting really clear on stuff. And when you gain that clarity, when you start understanding that inner guide and your personality type, which is sacred to you, it's not a square, that 1 by 1 square. It's not a stereotype. It's not a meme. Those are horrible. And honestly, people actually believe that about themselves. So I want you to stop that stinking thinking. I want to say that a lot. Because I don't want you to believe that. That's not who you are. Your personality is not who you are, though, either. And that's why I hate those squares, because it's not even who you are. Your personality is just the tool this receiver broadcasts through. The cool thing about your personality type, and if you believe that I do, that you're a spiritual being having human experience, you might also be of the belief that you chose your parents, you chose your country of origin, you chose everything in your life on the other side before you came here to manifest the gifts that were laid in your heart before you incarnated. And so why would you come down here and then God's like, oh yeah, when you're down there, pick out your personality type? That would never happen. That's not, God's never random. Your divine intelligence is never random. So you also chose your personality type because it's ideally suited. It's perfect for your life mission, your true calling, your soul's evolution. It's ideal for that. So once you start understanding that, your personality type just doesn't become something like, oh, that's cool to talk to at a cocktail party. No. It becomes a very integrated part of your spiritual life. Because you have to know this. This is really important stuff. It's extremely important if you want to show up in the world as your authentic self. That's just how it is. And I'll tell you a little story. And this wasn't always who I was, because you might have known me 10, 15 years ago and you're like, she's a bitch. And I could have been, you know? But I was at Walmart today. It's a long story. But, you know, I'm doing my thing, I'm going at the door, and this beautiful lady walks out and she goes, I was coming through the door anyway. I'm like, oh, thank you, you're so kind. And she just turns around and she goes, you know, you are just beautiful. And I looked at her and I thought, oh, God, what a beautiful thing to say. And I was like, you know what? You are too, and we just need to own it. And we both started chuckling and went on our way. That's because I've adopted this idea. It's like, I want to feel good every day. So when I'm feeling good, I'm interacting and feeling good about everybody I'm around. I have conversations with people, you know? And yes, sorry, my nose is itchy. It's very allergy today. It's like things are falling. It's crazy. But anyway, you know, and I get that an extrovert, and especially when I'm out and about, but I have this very high introvert tendency too. But you know, but feeling good doesn't mean you're an introvert or an extrovert either. I just have a tendency to get, as an extrovert, to get more energy doing that. As an introvert, you can still feel good, and you don't even have to talk. You could smile, or you don't have to do that. You just have to feel good. You know, and people are going to be attracted to your energy. Have you noticed sometimes when you walk into a room, or when you're at a party and you go somewhere and like everybody just wants to be around this one person? I guarantee they're totally connected into that inner guide. where your natural truth is just existing, and it's just on, and it just flows naturally out into the world. Am I making sense with this? Because that inner guide, that's your power source. That's your soul compass. That's where your passion, your purpose, your God-given gifts, it's all there, right? Because you're getting messages all the time from divine intelligence. Well, if you took this path, you're going to see how this can grow, or you can create this, or you can do this. Because we're here to create our lives, right? So when you start getting into this idea, it becomes really, really exciting. And the cool thing about spiritual personality typing, which I've developed, it's one of the things that became very clear to me as I was going through my life tsunami. And it became clear to me is because it's the tools that I used to navigate this time in my life. So I'm a walking, talking, real world experience of how this all works. So what I've done with spiritual personality typing is I've used the foundational aspects of Myers-Briggs, but I've elevated it. It's a new mindset wrapped in spiritual practices and theories. So it elevates your thinking, right? I want you to sit at that, when you're in that now moment, you're using your personality type because, okay, it indicates who you are and how you show up in the world, so it's really important. But when you're sitting there doing something, you're also highly aware of that inner guide. Are you paying attention to it? What's it saying? Are you looped into it? Have you connected? Have you plugged into that? Because it's going to start feeding you and broadcasting through your personality the exact perfect thing for you in that moment. So your life gets so much easier, because when you're tapped in to that divine intelligence and you're the receiver of that and you want to feel good, that energy, that vibrancy, your vibe is higher and more conscious. So you're more conscious in your moments. You're very conscious of your personality type, and you're very conscious of this vibe, and you're hearing it. So you're in this beautiful crossroads connection place where life is exciting. You know, life is electric. That's where the dance is. That's where all the fun is, right? Because you're creating in that moment, just spontaneously, serendipitously. It's not planned. It's not from what someone else told you need to do, say, be, have, do. Nope, it's none of that. You're in this moment with yourself, your personality, and your higher being, and you're creating in that moment. That's why it's exciting. It's fresh. It's new. It's you. It's nobody else. And that's where all the fun is. That's where all the fun is, right? When I got to that moment, when I started realizing, wow, I can really do this, that's where I started creating spiritual personality typing, you know? And I was very fortunate to work with a spiritual psychologist, Dr. June Lee Nix. She had a PhD in psychology. She was highly spiritual. She had her doctorate's degree. So and she was beautiful. I mean, you know, and even and she always used to say, yeah, all these degrees. And she goes, really, just listen to this, you know? And she wasn't negating, you know, her education. But she told me, because I said, I don't have a psychology degree. She goes, who cares? You already figured this stuff out, you know? And I hadn't figured it all out then, but I was working with her for 3 years, and I figured out a lot. And then I started studying the ancient texts, you know, the ancient texts of Socrates, of Aristotle, the mystics of the Far East. You know, I had already been embroiled in Edgar Cayce, because I worked there doing public relations. I worked as a freelance there. And that was a time where Dr. Wayne Dyer was starting, and so was Deepak Chopra and Christiana Northrup. So I was in that time frame when those people were just getting started. And my mother was extremely psychic. Like, she would talk to her deceased relatives. I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? Who are you talking to? This is when I was a little kid, right? I was maybe 8. I'm like, Mom, they've passed on now, Mom. I'm like, I think Mom's kind of losing her mind. And she dog patted me on the head and said, oh, honey, just because you can't see something doesn't make it not real. So I guess I've always had this in me, but it was taken out of me because I started relying on the external world as my information source. That's not what you should do. You need, I mean, come on, what do you want to do? Divine intelligence that creates worlds, or human beings that are, look at the world? Like, who do you want to rely on, right? I want to go that way. I'm going to go with the divine intelligence. And I'm not saying that some people out there don't have great ideas. They do. But I'm saying they're great ideas for them. And maybe you do click and you find, you know, there's some simpatico there, right? And you find that, and that's okay. I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm saying first and foremost, you need to go in and trust that inner guide. That's where your true self lives. That's your authentic beingness, right? Your inner beingness, your innermost being. You know? And I sometimes shy away even from the word authenticity, because are you authentic to what? To what you've been told? Because you can be authentic to that, and that's okay. You know? But when you get into that inner guided self, you genuinely know who you truly are, that's where you need to live. Like I said, that's where your power is. That's where your passion it lives. That's where your gifts are. That's where the life compass is, your soul compass. It's all there. That's your true power center. It's not out there. It's in here. You know? And so you're going to ask me, I know, because I couldn't find the answer when I was going through my stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in the 7-year life tsunami. I'm doing all the classes. I'm coaching myself to death. I've done this. I've done that. What am I going to do now? Like, nothing seemed to be working. So I really had to figure out how to start listening to myself. And that's really hard in this distracted world that we live in, because around every corner there's a distraction. I mean, look, we're on YouTube, distraction, right? There's distraction. Look at the news. I mean, everything is out there is distracting you. And a lot of it's so fear-based, you know? And I get it. It's hard. It was hard for me going through my stuff, because everyone's like, Nina, I don't know how you're going through this. So I'm like, me neither, because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. You know, I didn't have the tools that I can now give you to help you navigate things in your life. You know, if you're going through, you know, a midlife awakening or a quarter life awakening, you know, if you're walking down the path of divorce, if you've lost a parent, you know, or you're in the empty nest, there's all kind of things, right? And it's so cool, because once you start understanding yourself, your career path becomes clear, your relationships become clear, because you know what you like, you know what makes you happy, what brings you joy, what makes you feel better. So you're just not going to put up everybody else's shit anymore. You're done with that. I'm sorry, I'm getting bit up like hell. Mosquitoes like, so you're not going to do that anymore. So it's kind of like, you know, pulling those Jenga blocks out, I'm going to tell you, and look at each block and going, okay, where are these beliefs? Are these beliefs my beliefs, or they're false beliefs? You know, do you even know your personality type? Do you know how you make decisions? Do you know how you gather information? Your personality type is pretty foundational to help you start looking at yourself and start overcoming some of these sabotaging behaviors. Because if you keep on making the wrong decisions, then you don't know how you make decisions. You don't know yourself. That's what's sabotaging yourself. And this is the coolest thing. When you start getting into this place where you're like the crossroads that I talked about, right? Where your personality and the inner guide are always intersecting, right? They're both plugged in. You're really plugged in. You're really tuned into this, right? You're plugged in, right? You're like doing the embrace, and you're listening to both sides. When you have negative reactions triggering, you're pleasing, you're sabotaging, guess what? You've clicked off that inner guide. You've left that at a gate for some reason. You just left it behind. You got embroiled in the external world. Because that inner guide is always the joyous, most peaceful, kind, compassionate, all-knowing, creative, imaginative power source for you. It is not fear-based, unworthy, sabotaging, pleasing, all of those things, right, that we as humans do. It's none of that. What happens is something's triggering you in the external world, which is good because it's saying, this is something we need to work on, right? So here's a tip. When that stuff starts happening, I told you need to go into stillness about this. You need to sit down, get out your journal, and just write this one sentence. Say, dear divine intelligence, please show me how to overcome this, how to change this, however you want to structure the last part of that sentence, right? Close your eyes, get still with yourself, and see what comes up. You have to get into stillness. That's where you're going to find this inner guide. It's in the stillness. It's not outside in the distraction. It's not in the hustle. It's not in the busyness. It's not on social media. And to be honest, it's really not within any guru. We here as teachers are here just to teach you something, but then you need to have the kahunas to go and do it and experience it yourself. You only learn through experiences. You don't learn by reading a book. You can get the principles of reading the book and get the intellectual knowledge. And speaking of books, I teach a 101 through this book. It's called Unpack Your Personality, Let Your Inner Guide Be Your Travel Guide. This is my debut book. And I'll get into a little bit about that too. But honestly, where you're going to find your best, become wise about this, is through your life experiences. Because that's who you are. Remember, I started out and I said, you're all parts of this. So those experiences live within you deeply. So when something like that comes again, you have that wisdom within you that you can go to. It's like your own go-to. It's like your own manual that's within you. Go, oh yeah, I remember I did that. I was supposed to be doing that. Oh yeah, but I had to slow down and do that and think this way. And part of my personality type, I was ignoring that. So you have this reservoir, this almost like this cheat sheet to overcome this stuff a lot quicker, right? So there's this beautiful thing that you can use that you've already experienced. So you don't need to go down that path again unless you want to, unless there's something there that you didn't do. And so you need to do it again, and that's fine. That's what personal growth is all about. That's what it is, right? So here in my book, I'm going to just show you something. This is kind of interesting. Like I said, my book is about spiritual personality typing, and I go through a lot of the basics in here of like what is spiritual personality typing. I don't know if you guys can see this. I don't know if, can you see the table of contents? I'll like put it up close and just do a slow, like, so you can see it. I don't know if you're going to be able to see all that. But you can see, yeah, that's what this is. And it's pretty cool because I love using travel. I was in the travel industry and like kind of pivoted a little bit around the travel industry because I think intentional travel for self-discovery is so where it's at. Like if you're traveling and you want to self-discover yourself, I think it's the best time. It's the best time to awaken yourself, to take yourself out of your mundane life and start looking at your life. You know, you can observe yourself when you travel. And I give you a how to do this in the book. but it awakens you in some way. I think that's why so many people love to travel, because it's a self-awakening process, right? And it's not like, oh, I've got to do this, and everybody gets rigid because, like, oh, personal growth, I don't want to see my ugly, which you're going to see ugly anyway. So it's just how it shows up. I mean, I was looking at myself going, oh, I did that to myself. Oh, I was lying to myself. Why was I pleasing? Right? On and on and on and on. And don't you love my weird faces? But it is something that you're going to have to look at that. And please don't be afraid of that. That's why so many people go through life and they never truly know themselves, because they're afraid to look at themselves. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to look at yourself. You, like the lady at the store told me today, you are beautiful. You got to get up every morning and say, you are beautiful. You're beautiful. And how do you want to spend your day? Right? How do you want to spend your day? You are so worthy to have a good day every day, to bring joy in your life every day. You're so worth it. Obviously, divine intelligence, God, or whatever you believe, they believe you're worthy, you wouldn't be here. So if you have that, universal energy on your side, you're doing pretty good. If you've got that, if you're going to start locking that belief system in, you're going to watch, your life's going to change. And that's another reason why I said travel is such a good way to do this, because when you travel, you jump out of your life and you see yourself differently. And I totally advise that you take time. You take time for stillness on your vacation and just observe yourself and see what starts coming up. You might want to have a little pocket journal with you. Write some stuff down. You don't have to do anything. If you don't want to do it right then and there, don't. Do what feels good for you. That's the whole point. Then you may want to come home and say, why did that trigger me? And it's like, why did I just love that little flower shop? Did I like that flower shop because I need more color in my life? Do I need to be outside more? Did it make me come alive? What made that, and dig into that a little bit. Don't just fluff it off and get on social media. Turn your social media stuff off. Devote time for yourself. You're so worth it. How much time are you spending on social media? Take 2 hours away from that and devote it to yourself. Your life's going to change dramatically. I'm telling you, it just is. So during my tsunami, I started doing this. I kind of checked out a little bit. Yeah, I lost some friends. Actually, I lost a lot of friends. But it's cool because now I'm building this cool tribe of friends that, you know what? They're okay with however I show up. They're okay with Nina just being Nina. Crazy, eccentric, dog loving, crepe making, walks over wine Nina. That's just who I am. Plus, I'm an ENTP, so I'm a tense mofo to begin with. But I'm a thinker, right? And I love deep conversations and gathering and celebrating people, So, yeah, am I perfect? Hell no. But now I have this tribe of people that support that. Before I had a tribe of people that wanted me to kind of be on their team, especially when I stopped drinking. It was like, why aren't you drinking? Like, you can have one glass of wine. Well, I said, no, I'm not drinking. Respect it and support it. Don't sit there and egg me on for 2 hours about not drinking. And then telling everybody, oh, Nina must be an alcoholic, she's not drinking. Are you kidding me? No, I just stopped drinking because I needed to stop drinking. I got that in one of my meditations. It was a complete download. You got to stop drinking. I can't work through you if you're drinking. I said, okay, I just stopped drinking. But don't you want people that are going to support you? Look at your friends. So much to learn, so much to love about yourself. I'm so glad you're here. Please like, subscribe, share. You can visit my website, ninasapala.com. I have a newsletter that I'm working on, and I'm just really excited of like the whole direction of where everything's going. And I showed you my book. If you want to jump right in, it's like $24, or Kindle's like $10, right? I mean, it's like what? a quarter of a therapy session or whatever therapy is these days. I don't know. And you don't have to go on the couch. You can go sit outside and read your book. Whatever you want to do. But I'm really glad you're here. I really want you to learn what spiritual personality is and how meaningful it is in your life and how rich and more fulfilled your life will be once you start doing some of these small practices. And there's really no investment. Well, unless you want to do some coaching with me, of course, or just start with a book. Because I do offer one-on-one coaching. And I want to just tell you this real quick, too. A lot of the online tests, I mentioned this in the book, are not accurate. There's a couple reasons for this. First of all, it's a forced testing mechanism. So you're sometimes forced to make an answer. And sometimes those answers don't flow with you, but you're forced so they don't come out properly. And secondarily, it's you're aspiring to be somebody else. Like you look at that answer and you're like, oh, I'd never do that. And meanwhile, you probably do. You just don't want to admit it, right? So those tests can be very misleading. So please, if you're looking at the test, you start reading your outcome, and you're like, ooh, this doesn't sound like me at all. Look at the sister type, which would be, if you're an extrovert, it's the introvert with the same exact 4 archetype letters. So if I'm an ENTP, my sister type would be an INTP, right? Or like I said, I coach for clarity calls on that, which is really important. You have to know who you are. I mean, it sets this whole ball in motion. You got to know that. It's very important. But so, I'm everywhere. I'm on Instagram at Nina Zappala, Pinterest, which I love Pinterest. I'm on Pinterest. I'm on Medium. If you go to my website, you'll find all that stuff. But, and I'm going to be offering some freebies soon, so I'll drop that in the link as soon as they get up. So I'm just glad you're here. And just know you're beautiful. You are. You're a beautiful soul, here to do wonderful things in the world. Don't ever doubt that that's your dream or a truth for you, because I want you to live your dream. I want you to be that person when you walk into a room, everyone's like, what does that person have? Like, what's going on with them? Like, I just want to be around them. There's like such a cool energy. You know why? Because it's your energy. It's you vibing on all you're running on all cylinders, man. You're just out there clicking. You're like, yeah, I'm just doing me. People are like, yeah, I want to get on that train. That's fun. Let's go do that. Because you want fun. You just want what you're saying. You're asking yourself the question, right? You're asking yourself the question. What makes me feel good? And so, of course, people are naturally going to be attracted to that if you're practicing that. That goes without saying, right? Anyhow, thank you so much. Subscribe. I know I don't have all the stuff, bells and whistles on my thing, but you know what to do. Subscribe, share this, and I put on videos pretty regularly. So hopefully we'll be seeing each other again. And drop a comment. Always drop a comment. Tell me what you want to learn. I'm doing this to teach you. So what do you want to learn? I don't know what you want to learn. I learn my stuff, but I don't want to be talking about my stuff all the time. I want to help you talk about your stuff, right? And be anonymous if you want to be anonymous. I don't care. Just let's help each other. Let's build a better world together, right? Let's create that community where we're all supporting one another and helping one another. And just feeling better about ourselves, feeling beautiful and vibing with ourselves on that level of goodness, right? Anyway, enough said. We'll talk real soon. I'll see you hopefully in a day or two. This is Nina Zappala, Spiritual Personality Typing.